Despite the Barco government's peace initiative with guerrilla groups and its plan to corner the paramilitary, violence continues to infest Colombia. A wave of fascism, largely supported by narco money, threatens to topple the state as the population is targeted for massacre.
It is a campaign of annihilation that we in the United States support through our purchase and consumption of Colombian cocaine.
The problem with narco money is that they are buying real territories within the country. As you say, the Medio Magdalena region, which is a colonization region, building up small armies with private gunmen to clean up all the land from leftist, peasants, politicians, union leaders and so on.
But aside from buying these huge tracts of land and entering cattle and land associations which wield a lot of political power in the country, they're also buying their way into industry.
What we know is that they invest mainly in lands, in urban lands, both rural and urban. They invest also in trade, a little bit in tourism and facilities for hotels and casinos and all that. And just they are beginning to invest in industry.
My perception is that they have broadened their activities, they have been able to legalize some of their dealings, they have incorporated some of their monies to the local from the underground economy to the so-called open economy.
But aren't these people, Rodriguez, Ochoa, Escobar, and so on, don't they have the Colombian country by the throat? They're flooding the country with narco money, taking over the lands, taking over the industry.
Que estas personas, Escobar, Ochoa, Rodríguez, ellos no tienen a Colombia por la garganta, mejor dicho, cogidos, que se están cogiendo la tierra, se están cogiendo, mejor dicho, todo, y además están usando plata de drogas, que es plata droga.
Lógico, se está... Otro problema, otro asunto que es importante que tenga en cuenta la opinión americana.
Another problem that the Americans should take in mind,
y los medios de comunicación masivos del pueblo americano,
and the communication between these people,
es que el problema de la droga es grave en cualquier parte del mundo.
Is that the drug problem is going to be, there's going to be drug problems everywhere.
Pero en Colombia lo es más.
But in Colombia there is more.
¿Por qué? Porque en Colombia
the phenomenon of the drug is not isolated.
No se da solo.
Is not alone.
Sino que se da incorporado
it is
al
incorporated to the terrorism,
a la subversión,
to the subversion,
izquierdista o estalinista,
the left leaders,
y a la reacción de derecha.
And the reaction to the right.
We've seen massacres in the past year and a half at Cordova, Yoruba, Segovia, Meta. I've heard also that there was a general cleaning out of Puerto Boyacá. Perhaps 1,000 people were killed. Is this true?
Yes, it is true.
Well, there were, as far as what the government recognizes, more than 140 paramilitary groups in Colombia, operating regionally with different names, with different codes, etc. My particular perception is that that's not really true, that what we can see is maybe 150 names, but we see actively at least 6 or 7 groups.
And how many total? Would you say?
In terms of men
or women?
All women.
Are there women involved in this?
I don't know for sure if they are, but maybe they are. No, I cannot. I do not have a figure, and I think no one has a clear picture of how many people are involved. But one may definitely say that we are surpassing the level of 2,000 individuals somehow self-armed, organized, whatever.
Is MAS still the key organization?
It's still the broadest one, and the one that may have the ability to establish a framework of action. However, this is not very clear at all.
And the self-defense groups now are comprised of?
Now they are comprised of some people trained by the military, peasants, some people who are cattle raisers, for example, landlords, and some mafia, drug traffickers.
The paramilitary operate in virtually every region of Colombia. Reports are the mid-Magdalena region, just north of Bogota, near Medellin, is now completely lost to the paramilitary, with Santander next to go.
Well, it is a very complex origin. On the one hand, you have a change in military strategy in Colombia. Between 1978 and 1982, we have a direct repression of the army. We have thousands of arrests, of torture, of some killings, legal procedures and all that. But after 1982, we have the peace process, so that the strategy became a double strategy. A peace process on the surface, no military repression, no immediate involvement of the military in the struggle, but a clandestine involvement. I mean, we have a war, a peasant, military, guerrillas, mafias war. We have regional civil wars, localized, but of course in some, like 30% of the Colombian territory is a large regional war, a very large, with almost 20,000 deaths every year.
The government is developing a war against these groups, because the Colombian democracy is not going to survive if these groups still are still going to the paramilitary groups. The paramilitary groups mainly are financed and organized by the narcotic traffickers.
We have a government with no real commitment against the drug business, in my opinion. I mean, there is no clear and solid and precise policy from the government point of view against the drug business as such. I mean, there are no economic measures or policies against the drug lords and their possessions and properties and wealth. And on the other hand, you have some kind of very peculiar social tolerance, because as Alejandro said a while ago, there are as much as 2 million Colombians related to the drug business. Economic?
2 million out of 30 million?
Yes, which is a very respectable amount of people.
Also, you have, drug traffickers have two main weapons. First, money, so they can buy many people with huge amounts of money. And second, they have the weapon of threats, of violence. So they would say, a doctor, for example, or a hospital, take this $500,000, for example, for my health, or take 10 or 15 gunmen who are going to kill everybody here.
I mean, the paramilitary groups represent the most dangerous threat to the political stability of the Colombian democratic system, because they are at some way applying some law, some kind of law, some kind of justice, and the state The state itself is like paralyzed, like incapable to put these groups within the framework, within the limits of law. So they are doing, in general, their will in many parts of the country, and the state so far has been totally incapable and probably unwilling to control and suppress these groups.
Certain things are known. For example, in the past years, many officers of the Colombian army were trained in torture by the Argentine army during the period of dictatorship. And this school in Argentina was supported and influenced by the Pentagon policies of sending these military missions to all these countries to teach about this national security doctrine. And you should know that in our country, in the Ministry of Defense, these delegates of the Pentagon have a private office next to the minister's office. There is a very frequent interchange in policies, and we are all, as Colombians, concerned about the national leanings of our army. Supposed to be patriotic, but apparently other interests are involved.
We don't have evidence of this training on low-intensity warfare, but there is a feeling in the air that the Colombian military is getting more and more involved in this kind of new ideology.
What does this mean?
In some way that the military is going to be a more and more active actor and leader in the political process in the next future, but in a very conservative and traditionalist way, because this low-intensity conflict theory is deeply anti-communist. And we feel, at least from the universities, from the academic institutions, from the democratic environments in Colombia, that this particular anti-communist ideology is very unuseful, very problematic to deal with the problems of the country. So if this is true, if the Colombian military is getting this kind of instruction of training, I think we are going to have hard times ahead.